Okay, well, let's get started. Thank you again for joining us today for Aspects webinar, which we are presenting in partnership with the Ethos Career Management Group. Very happy to be able to offer this to you and to have Ethos show you what their virtual employment services and supports are like. I'm just going to take this moment to remind you, for those of you who are members and those of who are not quite members, of what Aspect is and what we do. We represent about 100 member organizations throughout the province and also into Alberta, who deliver services and supports through contracts by government or through private work, pay for services. We have members that are in urban centers as well as in rural and remote centers. We advocate on behalf of all of the sector, regardless of whether or not you are a member of Aspect, making sure that government creates policy that is based on evidence from the community. We also provide networking opportunities, which I assume will be limited this year with a COVID crisis, as well as professional development opportunities, of which this webinar is one. If you are interested in joining Aspect or would like to learn more about what Aspect does, please go to our website, which is aspect.bc.ca. Now, I would like to stop sharing my screen and introduce you to our lead panelist, and the panelists will all introduce themselves and move forward, and I will step out of the call. So first of all, Megan Hamlet, who is from Ethos Career Management. Megan, take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. That was a nice introduction. Hi, everyone. It is a bit odd not being able to see. I'm seeing my coworkers, so I'm like, hey, guys. Oh, wait. Oh, here we go. My name is Megan Hamlet, and I work for Ethos Career Management Group. I've had the pleasure of working here for about the last 3 years, and I come with a background in business development, business administration, and fields such as Amazon, where I worked for almost a decade. My work has been in delivering online employment services, and in fact, all of the programs that I've ever run in the last 3 years with Ethos have been in a blended learning capacity. So all of our programming has been virtual, and I've been grateful that that has existed prior to my coming on board, because we didn't miss a day in this COVID type reality because of the ability to just continue delivering services as we've always been delivering them. So I will be showing you our self-employment program that exists in Central Alberta at this time, which is similar to our SE programs that we run through the Work BC Centre as well. Ingrid will be going through our Community Works program, which is our multi-barriered program for career development of our LGBTQ community. And I will be going through the virtual services section of our virtual Work BC Centre that we do have. And Carrie is here to support me in perhaps technical questions that are over my head, because I'm very good at some things, and then there's some things that are just not in the scope of my background and or my delivery systems. And you can see my fellow panelists smiling quite a bit at that being over my head. So I'll give, and Martin, of course, is here as our Director of Operations to be able to add a framework to some of your questions that may come down the pipe, i.e., how do you make this work under the requirements of certain contracts, and putting the funder lens on some of what it is that we do at Ethos. So Martin, if you want to maybe just talk a little bit about your background, then we can go to Ingrid, and then we can move, go forward.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for that, Megan. That was quite the introduction. Yeah, so I have been working with Ethos for just over a year, and I oversee the LIT team, which is our team that basically provides all the programs and the technology to the industry and to the clients that we serve. And yeah, so I have 20 years of finance background, generally accounting and business development. and also business analytics and strategy and that sort of thing. So yeah, I will be happy to answer some of your questions. Ingrid?
Hi, so I'm Ingrid Vondel. I've been with Ethos for officially a year, I believe, next week. So that's quite exciting. I actually started at Ethos as a facilitator for some of these online programs, and I've really enjoyed, the blended format and facilitating online and all the resources that it brings. Other than before Ethos, I have some experience working in elementary school. So I came with that background, which has been quite useful as well. And I am now working with the LIT team as a content designer for some of the projects that we've taken on.
That's awesome. Carrie, if you're not wanting to introduce yourself, that's fine as well. Carrie is our technological IT support for the Work BC Center. Do you want to just say a quick hi?
I can do that.
Okay.
Yes, I'm Carrie Costello. I'm the technical coordinator for the Cowichan Valley Work BC centers. I've been with Ethos now for just over a year. Prior to that, I was working for the previous contract holder since about 2002. So I do have a bit of a background in the area here.
Just a little bit. Hey,
Just a
Carrie.
little.
All right. Well, thank you, team, for those introductions. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now and do a little bit of a run through of our Business Works Central Alberta program. So our Business Works Central Alberta program, and I realize I haven't shared my screen yet, is a 26-week program that takes participants through inception of business idea all the way to launch. The first 10 weeks of the program are in a boot camp style online capacity where the participants have the option to either come into the center or they can choose to do the material online. Given the vast geographic span of the Central Alberta area, we've actually never had anybody come into the office, even though that's been an opportunity for them. So all of our participants join the boot camp activities for a couple of weeks, and then they continue with one-on-one coaching until they've gotten their business plan together, and then they move into phase two. Phase two is 16 weeks of one-on-one coaching that can happen virtually via Zoom sessions, via a phone call, but typically take place versus a collaboration of technological tools and or a virtual session back and forth. We've had this program now for 2 years in Central Alberta, and it's now just been extended for another 2 years due to the overwhelming demand of people being able to access self-employment given the current state of economy within Alberta. So I'm going to give you a little tour of what this looks like. And right now you can see that this is my Business Works Central Alberta dashboard. So keeping in mind that when we use fancy words like LMS, it's like, what is that? I remember like a good 3 months of my tenure of Ethos being like, what? The what and the what? LMS stands for Learning Management System. So a learning management system is essentially a hub of where we put information to run the program. So for us, having this really dynamic dashboard, courses, events, and forums for our participants to be able to engage as who they are, where they are, has been really pivotal in the program being able to be successful for a period of time. So an example of doing something like the boot camp, we can do the boot camps. That's awesome. We can do the boot camps as facilitated by either I guess our site is down. We can do the boot camps as facilitated by a facilitator. They can share their screen. They can go ahead and go through and deliver that to the classroom. And or you could have a flipped classroom capacity where the person is looking at this from home and they could potentially study the material that is covered in that particular module for the day and then join the classroom the next day for the afternoon where they're actually discussing, disseminating, and doing the work as a collaborative team member. So our ability to be able to host all of this where anybody has access to this all the time, and then our facilitators have access to this all the time, and then we can actually incorporate training as frequently or on an ad needed basis. Our team can work at creating relevant material that meets the needs of the participants and the instructors, which is just fantastic. We can bring in guest speakers, we can house materials, and it just becomes this place where the information becomes a living document to be able to be proactive and reactive based on the needs of the participation group. We are able to use the most current and up-to-date. Yeah, there was a question from Sherry Fernandez. Can we tell us what LMS software we use? So this is a WordPress background. WordPress, we build it in the back end, and we're able to create a user interface that has a nice, clean look to the material. Oh, she wants me to answer it live. So this is a WordPress. Martin, can you go ahead and answer that? There we go. A WordPress system that we've done a lot of plugins and customizations in the back end to have this look the way that we need it to look, to be able to meet the needs of what our entrepreneurs are looking for. All we really need is internet access, and we can certainly go into areas that have typically not been able to be included in live environments because it doesn't take a ton of bandwidth to be able to pull up a website like that. So I think that is sort of an overview. We use the events function quite often as a sort of virtual hub for us to be able to do a live webinar related to certain topics that we think could be relevant. So there appears to be a Q&A question if one of you can, oh, it's just a thank you. And we can pivot the information based on what our people are saying. If we have a lot of service-based businesses, we can start to look for service-based information that would meet their need. If we have a lot of product-based clients that are coming into our entrepreneurial program, we can start to look at tutorials like on Etsy or on Pinterest or on fair market value type information, so those people can take that new information that's relevant to them, and then we can put them right into these live calendar events. So we can just post that right on the front of the LMS and they can use that. So that's a way that we've been able to use our blended learning system on the BWCA self-employment site to pivot within those funder-based contracts. Ingrid can tell I'm about to send it over to her by her nodding. So Ingrid, if you want to give a quick tutorial of CommunityWorks.
Yeah, so I actually was very involved with the CommunityWorks and getting it all started. So it actually is a program that only began with its first intake in November of 2019. So it is, we're still on the first few intakes of this particular program, and it's been a huge success so far. We've generated a lot of interest for this program. So it is a program that essentially is meant as a support and communicating some certain information about finding a job, finding employment. So we go through all the, the standard resume writing, cover letter, all of that, but all through online webinars. So how it typically goes is that we'll meet typically twice a day. So once at 10 a.m. in the morning for this particular program until noon, take an hour break, and then come back for an afternoon webinar session as well. Typically on the same topic for morning and afternoon. And yeah, everything is done through Zoom. So as you are here connecting with us right now, or perhaps watching this in the future, but everything is done through Zoom. And then we also use, as Megan was just showing, a similar LMS, so learning management system tool, as a sort of home base for the particular program. So through there, the participants are able to access the webinars. Through the links, of course, they're able to access any links that were shared that that particular day. And yeah, it's pretty much a good place for them to go and find anything that they might have missed, right? As with these types of programs, typically people start getting interviews and having to miss some of the lessons, and so yeah, they can just regroup there. So I think what I'll do as well is I'll share my screen right now with all of you.
Yeah, your pages are up and running, no problem. I just had a peek.
Perfect. All right, so I just wanted to quickly gloss over this particular presentation. So this is a presentation that we share with the participants when they register for this particular program. So the virtual workshops are typically, I mean, it really depends on the topic, I would say. Sorry. Okay, so it really depends on the topic. Just answering this question here from the Q&A.
Brenda.
Yeah, so Brenda's question here. So yeah, so most of the workshops typically, I would say, last between an hour and a half to 2 hours for each the morning and the afternoon, depending on the topic, right? Of course. So for example, on the topic of resumes, we typically like to give the participants a little bit of time during the classroom time, during the workshop time, to work on their resume independently and make ourselves available to receive any questions or, you know, provide any assistance for them that they might need one-on-one. So it really is dependent on the topic, but we have, you know, set aside these 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the afternoon for this particular program for us to meet. So whether or not we need that time is really up to us at that point, but we make sure that the participants know to always, you know, sign in at 10 and sign in again at 1 p.m. So that kind of consistency as well, that is really helpful for the participants. So part of the question was, you know, how to, are they comfortable with that length of time? And I would say that they are more comfortable than in some other situations, simply because they're in their home environment most of the time, right? They're connecting from home. There's that. They have, you know, they are able to take breaks whenever they need. Typically, I'll just ask to let me know in the chat for how long they'll be doing that. And yeah, and then otherwise, as the facilitator, I'll typically ask each of them to, or the group, to take a 10-minute break every now and then for a bio break or whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to just to mention too that Ingrid's referring to a cohort-based group setting, in that there's a virtual room every single day that the participants are joining as they would physically walk to a classroom. So when we talk about virtual workshops existing within the context of a cohort, we also do virtual workshops as they exist, like through the Work BC Center, and as they exist like through different webinars, right? So that can depend, that we may do an 8-minute webinar on active listening, but that's totally different than the cohort-based programming, where our funders have dictated that there needs to be X amount of hours per week that is in the classroom, right? And so it's adding activities to that classroom-based sort of modality. So sorry, go ahead. I just wanted to make that difference.
No, that's perfect. Thank you. So yeah, this particular presentation here, like I said, is something that we offer to the participants as a sort of guide to the program. So we find that this is a very helpful tool. You're very welcome, Brenda. We find that this is a very helpful tool to get everybody on the same page. And typically, you know, the first day is reserved for orientation anyway, but this sets them up, because I find that for online work and readiness, they really need to feel comfortable using the technologies, feel like they know what they're getting into. I think part of this program, you know, involves them being on camera as well. In these cohort situations. So this can be quite challenging for some of the participants right away. So, you know, you want to make them as comfortable as possible, or as early on in the process as you can. So coming up with something like this, presenting this to them, can be very useful. So as you can see, it covers some of the information about the program, you know, how to connect. It gives them information about the team, right? Who they're going to be working with. So all of this is all preparation for them before diving into the actual program. Oh, we've got a question here, I believe. Oh, 3 questions.
No, I think it was us just answering.
Okay.
Maybe.
Let me know if there's one you need me answer. Okay, so I know that Megan shared another LMS, but I'll just share this one as well, since it is the one that we use for this particular program. So this is the landing page that they arrive on once they've signed in. They are able to access the dashboard as well as the virtual room over here. So by clicking this, they are able to join the Zoom room, which will only be open, of course, during the actual webinar time once the facilitator has opened up the Zoom room to the classroom. And as you can see here, very similar format. So we've got it set up according to each week, and each week has a topic. Again, this is all sort of preparation for the learner. They're able to see, what's coming up this week, what to expect, the assignments, the load of the work that they'll need to do. So for example, week 2, they'll be able to see that they're working on resumes and cover letters, which is, they can prepare for that amount of work. All right, so let's take a look, for example, at week 1. So week 1, as you can see, they've got their day 1, day 2, day 3, and so on. And it is also split for the most part, unless there's this one kind of topic for the day. It is typically split into the afternoon and morning and afternoon sessions here. So we've got, of course, the first day being an introduction, an overview, and orientation, followed by some forms and formalities that we have to go through. And then it dives right in, with exploring careers, discovering your personality. And if I were to select, for example, this first day, this first link here for week 1, day 2, and thank you, Megan, I think is answering all of those. That's fantastic. So over here, yeah, so let's go week 1, day 2 to take a look at that. So here we go. We've got, again, the morning and the afternoon sessions separated over here. And so here we are. This is again week 1, day 2. So they're just easing into this. And again, there's a big reminder here of when the time is. So again, making all this information very clear for them is extremely important. They need to. This is their home base again for this particular program. So it's important that they have this information. There will be, for this particular day, it's there's not much self-directed. If there is, the instructions will be here. And then, as you can see down here, we've shared some of the articles, some of the links that they'll be using throughout the day, or consulting along with their facilitators. So some of these, we'll share the same way that we do here. We'll open up one of these articles, for example, screen share, and go through it as a group. So this is definitely one of the added benefits of doing this kind of facilitating online, is that you've got all these great resources, and I have definitely found that using them increases the engagement of the classroom. So articles, videos work really well with groups, right? You don't have to stay as a group and watch it together. This is something you can send out the link, look at the length of the video, say come back in 5 minutes and we'll debrief. So it gives you all of those options, I find, with facilitating online, that that they don't, if you're worried about them having to stare at a screen for too long, this kind of approach to it by using the tools that you have and the tools that are available, and it just really helps with with moving the group forward and increasing their participation and their engagement in the program. So this is definitely an approach that has worked for us with this program and the TechWorks program, which was a program that we ran prior to this particular one. So as you can see, there's some links here, and every day follows the same sort of format. I find that typically as well, finding a format and sticking to it, having, again, that sense of they know what to expect, they know what's coming, really helps bring the class together. So just a quick aside here, but when I first started facilitating, I found that it was very difficult to have everyone sign in at 10 a.m. when the official webinar started. And at first I was like, oh, I'm going to wait a few minutes and see how this goes if they join. But I found that the more that I did that, the people that were coming in early were started thinking, oh, well, why should I show up early when? And so I ended up starting most of my webinars about 15 minutes late because of this, constantly pushing this back. So I have to say that once I really, stuck to my guns and said, everyone, we are starting at 10, and actually started at 10, people were much more punctual. There was much less of that lateness and kind of dragging. It was kind of like, if you show up late, we've already jumped into this topic. So again, this is just kind of a quick aside here, but a big lesson that I learned very early on in my facilitation career. So, so yeah, as you can see, the topics, if I go back here to the dashboard, are very much related to the employment side of things, but this program is also aimed at the LGBTQ2S+ community. And so we have a facilitator facilitating the work and job search workshops, and then we have a specialized facilitator conducting some more specialized topics. So anything from how to handle microaggressions to your identity at work. So for example, here in week 3, day 4 is when they would be having this class time with the specialized facilitator, and they would be discussing being out, the pros and cons of that, and supporting out coworkers, so finding that kind of opportunity to bond with your coworkers. So lots of opportunities here. Again, with these types of topics, very easy to plug in a very interesting article or video or podcast even, right? There's so many resources out there that can be used, and you can bring that all together into your teaching. So I don't want to take too much more time. I think this gives you a nice overview of the style of this particular program and how we use these tools in order to help facilitate and help engage our participants. And I'll stop sharing.
Go ahead. Thank you, Ingrid. As always,
thank
you
you.
are awesome. I'm just going to go ahead and answer a question that came in. Pia had a question between, and thank you. She said everything looks really clean and visually appealing, and that's the goal, right? It's you want the Mac or the Apple user predictive use, that you kind of know where to go, you know where to touch, and then it's easy to understand. You don't get all combobulated, because we've been in the employment services industry for a while, and we know who your average user is. So we don't want to create something that is so overwhelming. But the question was what is the difference between the user account, like facilitator teacher, and the login of the clients? And that's a great question. So the clients will see just the material related to them needing to accomplish or be successful in the program, like how do I write a resume, going through a job sustainment workshop, reading a PDF and filling out a fillable PDF to send to my facilitator. So it's the actual work stuff. The facilitator or the managers have that back-end capacity to be able to generate a report, to be able to see who logged in for the day, to be able to upload new material that better reflects your particular center. Maybe videos of your staff members, photos of certain things. So the facilitators or managers have the ability to audit, create, disseminate, and sort of get their hands in, whereas the users are just there to see and or answer to the material. So I think that probably answers your question, I think. Just making sure thanks, Martin. So one of the things that there was a question on, can we just purchase resume workshops rather than having to create our own? And that's a really good question, because it actually takes a significant amount of work to be able to do these, right? And whether it be, I'm just in a meeting. Whether it be off the side of your desk or whether it be trying to navigate the new technology. We've worked with a number of different centers, and it can be quite challenging to get something up and running. So I'll just share my screen really quickly before I move into one of the other ones. And you can see that, the job search workshops. Great. So the job search workshops are off-the-shelf products that we have available to sell to anybody who delivers career services. And it's our suite of remarkable resumes, compelling cover letters, job search, online networking. And these exist and they're super user-friendly and they have an output that goes to the client. So if you're doing Surefire job search, these are great for the client to be able to go through, create a job search plan. I would normally open this in another tab, but this is going to take me as the client through an engaging sort of gamified product. And at the end, I'm going to have a job search plan at the end, and it's going to include my personalized information that I went through in this particular workshop. I won't go into it too much unless there's a specific sort of open question about that. So let me go ahead and just say we also have our sustainment workshops, and that was sort of that other question that came through about like, do we have materials that exist in that capacity? So I'll just go ahead and stop that. I know we've got limited time and I don't want to take up too much of it talking, but why don't I go over to the Virtual Work BC Center? I think that's what you were saying, Martin, as well. So we created our Virtual Work BC Center in our actual contract before we were successful, before we were the successful incumbent. So our Virtual Work BC Center, there's a question there if someone wants to go ahead and answer that. So our Virtual Work BC Center is something that we created. I think I know who did that video. So we've got some great, we've got everything from, you know, this is the page that our people see when they come, our folks see when they come to our Work BC Center. Like, it's so amazing in being able to, like, who are you? What do you want to do here? Do you want to access virtual services? Do you want to apply for Work BC services? Or maybe you're an employer and you want to find out what our services are. So it's so cool to be able to have all of our different links in one place, understanding, you know, what we have in Work BC Cowichan, our upcoming events, how can you contact us? And it's like this amazing before the email system, like this is all available to the public. You don't have to sign in to see this information. So if I want to access virtual services, okay, so it's going to ask me, do I have a BCEID or do I already have a Virtual Work BC Center account? So this is going to take me through all the different, or maybe I need more details or how to apply. And then we talk about our job matching system that we've been working with the Mayor of Duncan to connect job seekers and employers within the community that are actively reaching out for solutions to meet their hiring needs. So maybe if I go back here and I say, oh, okay, well, how do I apply for Work BC services? Okay, well, here we go. Like, I can do it myself online. I want to actually call for help. And then it takes them through step-by-steps of the instructions of how to accomplish that. And we've gone through and we've created these really easy help guides because we want this to be accessible to anyone. No one should have a barrier of how to contact us. And that's why we wanted to ensure, like, you can phone us, you can drop in and see us, you can create something online. Like, we want everyone to feel safe and secure and that they have all the ability to access the services. Like, there's no one that can't access these. So we've created all these wonderful pages, again, not past the login. And then maybe you're an employer and you want to know what the employer resources are. So this is part of our system where the employers can just start to put in their information and they can actually connect with a staff member who could potentially give them the employees they need that day to meet their, you know, hiring needs. We've created a bunch of different virtual interview forms. How can you work from home? And we're able to pivot and react to the kinds of, you know, resources we need in our Work BC Center that our employers are asking for, and we're able to do that pretty quickly. One of the other pieces that you can look at, you know, we've got all of our contact links through there. You can subscribe to our email list. You can look through the different resources. What was I going to show? Carrie, there we go. I can apply for my BC EID right online right here. I can go ahead and create an account based on what services I'm applying for. So it's one of those things that allows for us to have all of these different services. And this is past the post. This piece right here is what you see when you have a virtual WorkBC account. I can go ahead and maybe connect with one of our job developers. I can find out our newsletter. Here's our service providers in the community that help us. And here's our employers that are our key, footprint employers that are helping us. And then we've got our workshops here as well, so you can access self-paced workshops. We've got, tutorial videos on how to access all of our systems. So it's just been this like super cool way to be able to leverage all these different skill sets that we have, and we can create fun cartoons. Like we can make it digestible and accessible to anyone. And Carrie, what did I miss anything that you think comes up in the centers?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head.
Okay, well, that's a first. No, I tease. But it's been really cool to thank you. It's been really cool to be able to do these things and to expand our market to help people answer their questions and to get them the information. They're feeling scared and they don't want to go out. So we need to be able to get that information to them in a better way. And then maybe they decide they want to join an employment program. Well, then we can easily do that too and refer them to the right portfolio piece we have in our sort of ethos umbrella that would help them get to the job that they're looking for or help them get to the resources that they're looking for. Janet asked a question of what software do we use to create fun cartoons? That's awesome. Yeah, that's called Vyond, like Vyond. And it's like a little tricky. Ingrid's amazing at it. I'm not so, I'm okay at it. But it's super fun, Janet, and it's a really easy way to take a point and put it into something that's fun to use. Do you want to show a cartoon, Ingrid?
Sure. You had one about the COVID, but that might be the best one to show.
Yeah, go for it.
Let me just double check that it's on here. Yeah, maybe the self-care one. They're just very, very
Love it.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very user-friendly software, a piece of software that you can use. They've got, all these templates already made, all these characters already generated for you. You just have to go in and build your story essentially from there. So let me open that up. Okay, and I'll share my screen. All right, so here's a short one we put together. If it'll play.
It might not because we've got so much bandwidth going on the Zoom.
I know. That's my worry too. Oh. It's even apologizing for how long it's taking.
I know. It knows that it's a self-care video and it's like, oh, I'm sorry this caused an excessive amount of anxiety. Here's a small apology in text you can't quite read to help you feel better.
Maybe it would work better on the WorkBC website. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe I can just play the cartoon that's.
Tell me, I'll stop sharing. Maybe you'll have more luck. Or if I'll share again.
That's okay. That's okay. We don't need to show the cartoons. But I think that gives sort of a sense of what Ethos does in their programming. And I've done a number of trainings with other centers. I think we had a couple today, in just helping them navigate getting their work online and understanding that there's a number of different technology pieces out there. And it's really not about finding all the amazing things that exist. It's about finding one or two that allow for you to make connections at this time. And then starting to get a little bit better on adding little pieces here and there that you become comfortable with. right? So it's maybe not starting with creating cartoons right off the bat, but it's sort of starting with like mastering Zoom and getting your background straightened out and getting your facial expressions and your body language worked out. And then moving into, well, what kind of material are we using? And does what we had on paper make sense online? And if it doesn't, how do we pivot that content to make sense in this new reality?
Great. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Martin, Ingrid, and Carrie. That's a great presentation. I think, Megan, you need one of those water blasters for anybody who comes into your office.
I mean, yeah, like yes is the short answer. I feel like that might cause a war though. Like I feel like they might be like, oh, perfect, we're having a water gun fight. And then I would just be inundated with the spray of discontent of an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old. So
That's great.
normally my meetings aren't this heavy. I've had a number, I've sort of had, this is hour 6 of meetings today. And so they are not understanding the 6-hour mom is not available.
Yeah,
So.
I recognize the mum face expression that sort of
Right?
flashed. You'll see it in the recording. So.
Oh, I'm sure there's basically like a, yeah, I'm sure it's loud, but yeah, you're doing this, you can see
Yeah.
my arm doing this.
So
Right?
thank you everybody for registering today, and thank you to the Ethos team for presenting this session. For me, it was really exciting to see the virtual Work BC Center, and also it was mentioned in the comments, I believe too, the really clean lines of the learning management system that you have. And I'm thinking ahead for Aspect for our conference in the fall, and I'm trying to collect some great ideas there. And your presentation today gave us a lot of really great ideas. So I just wanted to, before we leave, the post-webinar survey that was supposed to go out at 2 o'clock today went out this morning, and I'm sorry it confused a lot of people. But please retrieve the email. I won't send it to you again. If you could take a moment to give feedback on how useful this webinar was for you. I also wanted to draw attention to the fact that we have more webinars that are being presented in partnership with Ethos as well. Tomorrow, we have how to move your career practice online. Next week on May 19th, we have delivering employment services to a cohort and one-on-one online. And then on the 26th, we have developing engaging online content. So regardless of whether or not you have already moved your practice online, I'm sure that there will be tips that you can take away that you can use. As we're all learning, there's quite often learning gaps. And I find myself attending a lot of webinars just to see what I'm missing out on. And usually there's something that comes away and does really well for me working forward. So thank you again to everybody. I will be sending out the webinar recording hopefully today, possibly tomorrow. That's another thing I'm learning about in the COVID-19 environment, that every time I make a promise that something's going to happen, I need to double the time because things are taking a lot longer than they should. So thank you again to everyone, and thank you for your time today, and hope to see you again on a future call. Bye, everyone.